obviously this is a hot topic, and everyone is on that journey between them and God in that space. But I would say from both biblically and then from my own personal experience, I know what it is to cross that line, and I know how there's baggage that you carry into your marriage with that. And even if you are in a committed relationship and you're planning to get married, that's something that will always be in the back of your mind when you talk about that maybe one day if you have kids. It's just something that's always there. I'll never forget when we got to our wedding night, and I literally broke down and cried because I was like, man, we made it to the wedding night. Because in a relationship, when you love someone, there's so much that's there, and you want to express it in different ways, including physical. And so, when we were able to get to that space and walk across that, that's something that we can go back and say. We don't look down on anyone else because they haven't been able to do that. But there's just things that you might have and carry into your relationship because of that, because you started that earlier.
Yeah.
I don't think it would determine your salvation, but in the Bible it clearly states that sex is made for marriage. It's something that is special and it's holy, and it's something that God gave us that gift only for when we can truly be committed to that one person. So I don't think it will determine your salvation again, but it clearly states in the Bible that it's not something that you should do.
I think that in this day and age, it's a very hard thing to stay away from, especially when so many people around you say, oh, it's fine. Like, if you love each other, just do it. And not a lot of people have biblical beliefs. It's a very easy thing to just do, and you commit that sin. But honestly, I think sex is made to be such a beautiful thing. God made it to connect man and wife, and that's where the two souls become one. And so I think it's a very important thing to know and understand and act out the gravity of abstinence, so that when you do marry the right person that God has for you, you're able to love them fully and completely and incandescently, and you don't give parts of yourself away to people that you're just going to break up with in the future.
I definitely think talking about your core beliefs is very important. I think talking about core beliefs, I mean, your belief in God or your belief in like a higher power and all of that. I think that's important to talk about. I think it's important to talk about your future and the things that you're wanting to accomplish and the path that you're wanting to take. Obviously, your path changes as you go, but I think when you establish that in your relationship, like, hey, these are my goals, these are the things I'm wanting to do in my life, and I think if those goals align, I think that's definitely a good way to start.
Yeah, I think you just want to make sure that you don't have like massive fundamental differences, because you can deal with differences. That's not a problem. But I think being shocked, like, okay, I'm married and now I'm finding out about this thing that I didn't know. It's something that I wanted for myself, and kind of something that I had seen in our marriage. And this person like literally doesn't want that, like kids or something.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Not being like shocked into recognizing things, because differences you can work past. That's just with marriage in general. That always happens. Mm-hmm. But I think just not being shocked by those differences, I think, is important in marriage.
Yeah.
I'm an adult survivor of childhood abuse. So for me, being able to talk to my future spouse about, the traumas that I've gone through was a key. I needed to know that this person was going to back me up, and knowing what they were going to get into in regards to depression, anxiety, triggers, understanding exactly what they're going to be seeing, because they're going to be living with me. So that's one. If you've gone through a trauma, definitely something that you have to wrestle with, even if it's not trauma, but it's, a probably intense background, something you have to come to terms with is that you're going to be sharing that with someone else. But two other things that really stood out for us was finances. Talk about finances, because money can be a big tension in your marriage. It might not be a conflict internally between you two, but it's an external that just impacts you. And so getting to know what your financial goals are, how do you spend your money? Are you a spender? Are you a saver? What do you think about debt? How do you tackle debt? So those are some things that we talked about. Another thing that I get a lot of people asking this question after they're married, what are the views on sex, pornography? What if there's an issue with pornography within marriage? So I think those are two topics that unfortunately are very taboo, so real, and marriages are struggling because of that, and it's because we don't talk about it before marriage. So definitely getting views. What do you think about pornography? Do you think it's a sin? Getting to asking those deep conversations about what is sexuality, and I think even bringing in someone else, like a mediator if you need to. Counselor, therapist, it's always a good thing. Sexuality is actually a very healthy thing. So that's a couple of things that have helped us,
What I look for in a partner, honesty or loyalty. I think that's what I go for most.
In a partner, honestly, I think I just look for someone that aligns the most with what God says that we should look for, and who Jesus is, and how he displayed his love to everyone that he encountered. I think it's above all else, I just want to find someone that is a Christian and not just says they are, but is a devout Christian too and displays it. Because if he has that set, then I think everything else will fall in line too.
Jacob and I pray every night. We call and pray, and we also do Bible studies together. Getting more in the books of Paul or Proverbs.
I think not just that, but that's a good plus, but also maintaining that relationship yourself with God, because you can't, like what I've heard before is a saying, you can't share what you don't have. So when you maintain that relationship with God, it'll reflect in not only just your romantic relationships, but your relationships with everyone else.
Well, I feel like from the very beginning of our relationship, we made it a point to pray together, and I think that's something that I'm really thankful that we established early on. I think prayer really makes a difference, and I think establishing that at the very beginning of your relationship and connecting with God together, I think is important. But I also want to add that I think it's also important to have an individual relationship with God, and to remember that nobody can, number one, replace that relationship, and nobody can make it for you. So I think it can be easy to look to your partner to find what you're looking for in God, or to find that connection with God. And if you establish that on your own, then it's going to be so much easier to have that as a couple.
There isn't one.
Don't be perfect. We were talking about it in the car, and it's being yourself. When you're dating, you want to be the best version of yourself. And for me, from the get-go, poor Will, I wasn't much in the dating realm, and so for me, I took it very seriously. Whoever I wanted to date, that's the person I'm going to marry. So for me, on the get-go, I told Will like my past. I told him about my traumas and all that stuff because I believe that he needed to see who I truly was as a person. So one of the things that I would say is be who you are. Don't try to be what you're not, because it backfires when you're married. Because that person will see every single detail about you. And, unfortunately, I have met and I have heard of people that say, I don't know who I married. And that's very unfortunate.
I definitely don't.
Just do what we do. No.
Just follow us. No. I don't think there's a perfect. I don't think there's a perfect relationship out there. And if there is, I mean, hey, like, come talk to us because we want to know your secret. But I do think that, I don't think there's a perfect formula.
I think it's like an algebraic equation. You have all the aspects that you need in a relationship. And then there's that X factor, and it's not sex; it's your relationship with God. Because I feel like that bond, in any deficit that you're trying to fill to equal a perfect relationship, can be filled in that X position by your relationship with God and God being in your marriage. So I think that is an important part of any equation, no matter what your equation is. That's different for everyone. Some people want quality time. Some people want more, gifts. Some people want, physical touch. The different love languages. Mm-hmm. But I think that the important part is to, whatever you're lacking, first of all, recognize what you're lacking, and second of all, see if you can fill that with a relationship with God. I think that would be an important part of that equation.
Yeah, absolutely.
The last thing I would just say on that is when you're yourself and you mess up and you fail and you I'm not talking about like you went out to cheat on your partner, but I'm just saying you just messed up in forgetting something or doing something that hurt them in your actions. When you learn to love in those spaces, that's where love becomes really love. I mean, that's where how God loves us, right? When we fail, he still forgives us. And I think that gets modeled in a relationship when you can work through that and you can forgive each other. It brings your bond even closer. And so be who God made you to be. And if they don't accept you for that, then they're not the right person, even if that's scary to hear.
Yeah.
I can hear your
throat?
Yeah, I can hear your throat.
Every time he swallows.